excited to come and hear with you the wonderful stories of these dynamic women who are sitting up here. I've had an opportunity to get to know them, and they are not by any way all of the dynamic women that we have within this organization, but it's wonderful for us to be able to come and hear a little bit about their story and to be able to ask some questions and glean some insights from the path that they've taken, and what are the things that we can do as women and also for the men in the room as advocates for women in leadership roles. What are the things that we can do to help propel ourselves and also to lift up other women within the organization? So, to introduce our panelists, we have Jess Sears, who is the Director of Financial Operations. Next to her is Lauren Robinson. She is a Program Director. And then we have Natasha Mack. She is the Manager of Implementation. And we have Elizabeth Collier, who's a Program Manager. And pulling up the rear is Chandra Bidette, and she is a Program Director as well. So we're going to allow them some time to be able to tell you a little bit about them and their story, and then we'll get into some questions later.
I think I'm starting. I'm doing the So hello everyone, thank you so much for coming. It's really awesome to see all these familiar faces in the crowd, and some that I don't know, and I look forward to meeting, but thank you so much for coming here and supporting all of us. We really appreciate that. So I'm a long-time Allegis employee. I've actually been with Allegis Group for 20 years. I started this job right out of college with one of Market Source's sister companies in Maryland at the age of 21, so don't do that math. I was raised by two working parents. My mom worked, the whole time, and I was also always surrounded by very, very strong women, especially a couple aunts, that grew up in the 70s. So, I am woman, hear me roar. So when I entered the workforce, to be honest, I wasn't really, probably naive, right, to the way that women would be treated, or, kind of the things that I would have to face, which I actually think was a good thing, right, because I kind of just went in and, did my thing. So what I did to kind of tell my story was I put together a list of items of things that I feel like I've done, right, to share with you guys. So my number one thing is be yourself, right? All of us bring great attributes to the table, and show those, right, and be proud, right, of who you are. Work hard. I know it sounds cliche, but you're not going to get anywhere if you don't put in the effort, right, and work hard. Build those relationships, both with women leaders and men leaders and your peers around you. One of my biggest pet peeves is at meetings, and all the ladies sit together at a table. Sorry, girls, you're not going to basically break through those barriers or build those relationships or get to know people if you don't take that risk and go sit at that table with those group, of guys. My favorite quote of all times is, find your tribe and love them hard. So you have to have a tribe of people that are basically around you, both inside of work and outside. They have to fill your bucket when you need it, and some days are hard. They have to be honest, right, with feedback. And they have to also be a place you can go and talk about your fears or different ideas that you have. This is a situation I'm struggling with, what do I do? Be honest, right, with yourself and your leadership team. Tell them how you're feeling. Make sure they know what you want. Make sure they know what's important to you. I am married, I have 2 kids, and that's something that's very important for me. And I won't sacrifice. There's certain things that I know I can't be at everything, and I don't expect to be, right? Being a working mom, there's decisions you have to make and things that are important here at the office as well, but there are certain things that are non-negotiable for me. And I make sure, and I'm thankful, right, that my supervisors here and all of that basically support those things. Be relevant and prepared. If you ever read the book Lean In, right, she talks about making sure that when you're in a meeting, one, you should speak up, right, and be that voice. And I can tell you, I've been in a lot of meetings in my career, and still to this day, where I'm the only woman. And the other day I counted, there was 14 guys and me. But I have to make sure that I'm prepared and that basically my voice is heard And what I'm saying basically makes sense. I'm not just speaking up to speak, that when I'm saying something, it's impactful and relevant basically to the situation. So that's it. Well done. That's it. Well done. Thank you.
All right, so Lauren, you go next.
Well, we didn't collaborate on what we were saying, but you're going to hear a lot of similar themes and you know, like call outs from, I think, probably all of us, but for me too, kind of following Jess. You know, like you, I grew up in a home with 2 working parents. My dad traveled, so my mom was working and holding down the house, you know, raising my sister and me when he was out of town during the week. And when I entered the workforce, years ago, I don't want anybody doing that. No, it was 22 years ago. I, went into telecom right away, pretty much. My one job that I really connected with before that was at a Clinique counter as the manager. So talk about going from, all women all the time to all men all the time in telecom. It was a drastic change for me. But because it happened so early on, I didn't really ever know any different. So it didn't occur to me that I should be intimidated by that or bothered by that. But as I progressed in my career a little bit and kind of moved out of the individual contributor role and into a role where I was, and by the way, I will say there were a lot of men, but there were plenty of women leaders at the time too. This was when I was working for Bell South in Charlotte, because I started with Market Source as a remote employee 15 years ago, which seems impossible. But at Bell South they had plenty of women leaders, and I was in that office every day, so I was surrounded by and more connected to that group of people than I was the people that I actually worked for and with at Market Source, because that's who I saw every day, right? So as I kind of progressed in my career and moved up and started to move into leadership roles, my exposure became more and more to male leaders and more men in general. And like you, I find myself, as the only woman in the room, and I found myself creating my own barriers in some ways in my own head, because when you're the only person that looks like you in the room, you go, oh, do they really want me here? Like, they're gonna look at me and think that I have really nothing to say. I'm not like them, but I hid that well, and I made sure that I could fake it till I could make it. If I was uncomfortable, I never let it show. I pushed through those moments, and I think it made me a stronger person, and I found those allies in the room who would make sure that they spoke my name and, ask me my opinion if I wasn't speaking up on my own, although that's not been much of a problem for me. For those of you that know me, I always have an opinion. But I will say that, like Jess, I think it's important to be honest and open about what it is you want. I had a conversation probably about 5 or 6 years ago that really kind of changed my trajectory here at Market Source. I was in a position that, unless I moved here, I really wasn't going to have anywhere else to go. I had kind of reached my peak in my program, and I went to Aaron Williams, who's still my boss, but he was my program director at the time, and I said, look, I'm kind of interested in knowing what else is out there. I think client director might be something I'm interested in. What do you think about that? And he was like, well, I think that'd be awesome, and I think you need to call Damon and set up lunch. Well, that's kind of intimidating when you don't know somebody, but I did it, and we went to lunch, and I kind of told him, look, this is what I'm interested in, this is what I like to do, this is what I think I'm good at, what do you think about that? What do I need to do to take the next step? And he walked me through it, and because I had that conversation, I ended up in Emerging Leaders. They ended up coming to me and offering me this role, or the opportunity to interview for this role when Aaron moved up, and I ended up moving my family here 3 years ago when I did that. And if they had just looked at me and thought, well, she's a woman, she doesn't live here, she has a family, there's no way she's ever going to move, this wouldn't have happened. But because I spoke up, and told them what I wanted, it happened. So don't be shy about doing that. And when you run into those difficult moments, I think just stay true to yourself. Don't respond the way that you think that they want you to respond necessarily. Be honest about who you are. I think so often we try to fit ourselves into a certain mold that, the best you can be is your authentic self. and people will always connect with you more, appreciate you more when you are. And when you aren't, when you let that like troll in your head not tell you things, that holds you back from making those connections and really being able to take the next step, whether it's in a relationship or with a new job opportunity or whatever. So that's my Your turn.
All right. Natasha Mack, for those that don't know me, implementation manager. So I as well was raised in a family of 2 working parents. My mom had more of a flexible schedule though, because she was the one that would take off time from work when we were sick or had to get to, practice, things of that nature. My dad didn't really have that flexibility, plus he worked 50 miles away from our house, which is not like Atlanta traffic, because I grew up in Connecticut, so it was a true 50 miles, which was like an hour and a half for him to get back and forth, which I did at 16. He got me an internship, and it was awful leaving the house at 6, trying to get up at like 5 at 16. That was not fun. But it opened my eyes to what the workforce was at a very young age, and I'm very grateful for that. But I started here back in 2002. I actually interviewed with Chris Walter at the time, and I thought I was interviewing for a water company, Avaya. Sounded like Aquafina or anything else. So I went in, I'm gonna get this job. And he's like, "Do you know what you're interviewing for?" I was like, "It's like a water company." He's like, "It's telecommunications." I was like, "That's different." I don't know why, but he chose to hire me. Thank God. I'm here. So needless to say, I did not have a telecom background. I did not, I was very green just in general from the workforce as well, recently being graduated, and also moving to Georgia. So I had the green part inexperienced, I was young, I was female in a telecom world which is mainly driven by men. In addition, I have, Connecticut roots, so I'm very much like, hey, we need this like yesterday, and they gave me the West Coast. So there was a lot of barriers I was faced with right out of the gate. From a personality standpoint, it was not meshing at all with my business partners. I was like, what is wrong with these people from like Montana? Like, why don't they just go out and sell stuff? And little did I know there was not a lot in Montana, right? So I didn't really start understanding the geography I was covering. And Idaho, I was like, well, just drive to them. And he's like, ma'am, there's like a mountain. All right, I really need to figure this out because none of this is working. I get phones, I get it, I pick it up, it works, that's great. Voicemail, woo! So little to say, within 3 months, because I was more customer service oriented, not sales driven, I was on a PEP. And I was in tears. And it was all based on February, and they gave it to me in March. And I'm looking at the paper at 7 o'clock at night like, I'm not gonna sign it. I'm just not, I don't feel comfortable signing. I'm not gonna sign. I'm gonna go home and I'm really gonna think about this. So I went home. I literally wrote 4 pages to their 1 page of a PIP. But what it did is it gave me the courage and really said, hey, you know what? I can walk away today and I can find another job. But if I'm gonna make something of myself, I really need to understand what am I doing wrong? What do I need to be to make this role successful? And through the leader that I had at the time, Sue Bowen, she sat down with me literally every day and listened to all my phone calls. And it was just a matter of at the end of each phone call, she's like, just ask them about their next sale. Just ask them about something to do with their business. Like, and all of a sudden, they started calling me about opportunities and it immediately changed. And I found people on the team that helped me learn the technology and really understand what is this that I'm actually supposedly supposed to be telling these business partners to make them want to sell more of my product. And at that point, I learned, what brand do I want to make for myself, right? Because I don't want to be known as the kid that came in, lasted 3 months, and yep, she's gone because So it really gave me the courage and allowed me at a young age to really say, what do I want to be as a work person? I know what I am outside, but who does Natasha Mack, at the time Gerasi, want to be? Like, what am I going to be? And make a name for myself. And I started, very slowly climbing up the ladder. I think I was at like 60%, and then slowly it was 70, right, with my partners, and then it just kept climbing. And then at one point there was like no end. I was over 100%. I was so proud that I was actually able to accomplish this just with some, like, hey, a little slap in the face, and then with, people around me that really saw something in me and helped me through it. Like, they were like, hey, you know what? You're young, but that doesn't mean anything, right? You can still learn a lot of things even though you don't have the experience. And it really helped shape me over my career. Fast forward 7 years, and we were on still the Avaya program, and I was a team lead, and they cut our program by over half. Literally, they had people go up to the 5th floor and people went to the 3rd floor. If you're on the 3rd floor, you were no longer there. If you're on the 5th floor, they just held us there all day so that we didn't see them. It was and that was the client driven. It was a very raw moment for us. So I lost my PM and program manager, and I lost my other team lead. I had nobody, I felt like at that time, to help me corral the 7 of us that were left. Because the next day, I'll tell you, there was a line at my desk that says, "What's next?" I was like, well, we're gonna keep doing what we're doing, and we're gonna rally, and we're gonna call up our business partners, because that's what we're here to do. They chose us 7 for a reason, and we have to hit our number. So we just gotta refocus, and we're gonna get through this. And every day, that's kind of what we did. And we were a staffing model at that time to Market Source because we didn't really have anybody over us. But it taught me a lot to put people first, and because without them, we were all going under. None of us were gonna have jobs. So I had to be the glue for that team, but like, you know, making sure that every day we came in together and we fought and clawed our way back. And I mean, eventually we built the program back up to roughly where it was, and that was a very proud moment too. But it's times like that when you look around and you feel like you have nothing, there's somebody out there that can help you. There were plenty of, I called, you know, Rick Haviland from time to time back then and be like, hey, you know, we're not really a staffing, I know we're a staffing model, but we're really not staffing. There's people here on the 3rd floor, and we care and we want to make this successful, and he knew. And just those relationships help you through when you have nothing like left to give, when you feel like you just have nothing. So I guess in all that, sorry, I kind of went on a tangent, but build your brand, like know who you are, who you want to be. Don't let other influences or outside influences, right? Because programs come and go, people come and go. But be true, like Lauren and Jess were saying, be true to the core of who you are, because that'll get you through so much in life, at work, just in general. And for that, I'm extremely grateful, and I kind of hold on to that and thank everyone that has touched me and helped me through and picked up the phone when I called them at 7 o'clock at night, you know, and they're still working too, to kind of get you through that. So that's my story. Thank you.
Hi everybody, I'm Elizabeth Collier. I am the program manager at the Share Health Center. My story is a little different. I grew up with all brothers, and then I got married and had all sons, and have men surrounding me at all times in my life. Thankful for them, but would like some more sisters. So the career when I started years ago was very, very heavily presented by females. So I didn't really have a lot of barriers, or I didn't see a lot of barriers at the time. That came much later in my career. I moved up very, very quickly because all of the leaders were pretty much female. They saw something in me. I put my head to, you know, in a silo of focus, and just, I wanted to be at the top. But then I decided I wanted to have a family, and that's kind of when my internal battle started. And